Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about why I decided to start a YouTube channel about people pleasing and fawning. The fear that I had about being judged, the imposter syndrome that came up, and then how I ultimately realized that this was something that I needed to do. So, if you're new here, this channel is for my fellow recovering people pleasers. I use real moments from my day to day life to reflect on what worked, what didn't, and what I'm learning as I deconstruct fawning and live more authentically. I've always been pretty passive on social media. I'll scroll, I'll keep up with a couple of friends, but I never really thought of myself as someone who creates content. And for a long time, I didn't feel like I had enough credentials or really enough authority to put my voice out there. I've had ideas before, things like maybe starting a true crime podcast, but I kept stopping myself. I care a lot about ethics and responsibility, and honestly, some online content can be really careless or even harmful, and I didn't want to add to that. A few months ago, I quit a toxic job, and suddenly I had some free time. So, in between job searching, I asked myself a simple question: what would I want to do even if I didn't get paid for it? And over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of processing around my own people pleasing, how it's shown up in relationships, friendships, and also my career. And at the same time, I was seeing more and more conversations online about fawning and people pleasing, coming from people like therapists, psychologists, and especially women who felt like their lives were being shaped by forces outside of themselves. And that's when it clicked for me. I realized that my background in psychology, combined with my lived experiences of people pleasing, that could be a way to both process my own patterns and make visible how these behaviors show up in everyday life, sometimes quietly, repeatedly, and often unnoticed. And I really believe that when we tell our stories, we can start to uncondition these patterns, not just individually, but collectively. So I was excited. And then the imposter syndrome hit me hard. And I'll be honest, when I see people giving advice online, I want them to have credentials, either through education or maybe real life experiences. I feel like self help these days has become monetized, and it's really easy for people to misrepresent themselves. For example, maybe claiming that you're an expert in human behavior when really all you have is a law degree. But I won't say anything more about that. I don't want to be irresponsible or misleading. And even though I do have a PhD in psychology, studied human behavior for over a decade, and I have been a people pleaser my entire life, I still felt like I needed more permission. I needed more training, maybe another degree. I needed something else before I was allowed to speak. And yes, wanting to be responsible and have education, that's a good thing. But I also realized how much that mindset mirrors people pleasing itself. So many of us feel like we never know enough, like our voice only counts once we earn the right credential. And while it's absolutely a problem when people claim expertise that they don't have, when you do have the education and experience, that deserves to be honored, especially by you. And the other big fear I had was judgment. I worried about saying the wrong thing, about being misunderstood, about someone deciding I wasn't qualified enough, or worse, that my lived experience didn't count. And that fear, it taps into an old pattern for me, the belief that my voice doesn't matter. And sure, no one might watch these videos, but I can't control that. What I can control is why I'm here. This channel isn't about going viral or having a million subscribers. It's about connection. I'd rather have a small group of people having meaningful conversations than a huge audience that just watches passively. And honestly, if I let fear of judgment keep me quiet, I would be doing the exact opposite of what I talk about here. I wouldn't be living authentically. And that realization became my biggest motivator. So as recovering people pleasers, we're really good at putting things we want on hold, maybe convincing ourselves that we're not ready yet or that we need one more skill before we start. But there's always going to be more to learn, even for experts. Even after decades in a field, there's still more that you can learn. And I actually think that thoughtfulness, that desire to learn, to be ethical, and to be careful, that is what makes our work better. And I knew it was time to start this channel when I realized that the conversations that I was having offline, it wasn't enough. My stories needed an outlet. And maybe by sharing them, others would feel a little less alone and feel safe enough to share theirs too. So if you are comfortable sharing, I would love to hear from you. What's something that maybe you've been scared to start? And where might fawning or fear of judgment be showing up for you? And if this resonated, you can like or subscribe so you don't miss future reflections on boundaries and recovering from people pleasing. Thank you once again for being here. We will continue to deconstruct people pleasing one moment at a time.